6:14 a.m. Altitude below 200 feet. Speed 900 kilometers per hour. 3 F-16 Fighting Falcons of the Venezuelan Air Force tear through the dense Caribbean fog, their noses pointed like blades straight at the heart of a steel behemoth. USS Gerald R, the most powerful nuclear-powered aircraft carrier in the world, valued at $13 billion, an ostensibly untouchable symbol of the U.S. Navy. No identification signals, no radio contact, no warnings. The Venezuelan pilots, well-trained, carrying electronic countermeasure pods and armed missiles, charge forward at terrifying speed. They believe surprise will make the massive ship tremble. They want a reaction. They want an explosion. They want to prove that even a giant can bleed. But nothing happens. No blaring alarm sirens. No SM-6 or AIM-120 missiles leave their launch rails. No thunderous roar from the Phalanx CIWS guns. There is only silence, a chilling, eerie silence spread from the deck, radiating out across the ocean. Why? Why would the U.S. Navy allow 3 hostile fighter jets to charge straight into a restricted zone without pulling the trigger? Had they fallen asleep? Or was that apparent indifference itself the most terrifying weapon of all, an invisible blade slicing away, layer by layer, the attacker's sense of security? Are you ready to explore? Don't blink. The story has only just begun. To grasp the gravity of the situation, we have to look at what's heading straight for the USS Ford. This isn't a training flight. This is a sharp spear, honed and launched by Venezuelan pilots ready to turn tension into chaos. Under the command of the Venezuelan Air Force are F-16 Fighting Falcon Block 15 aircraft, classic export versions, upgraded with APG-66 radar and powerful F-100 engines, capable of streaking through the sky at supersonic speeds. Beneath their wings, ALQ-131 electronic warfare pods hang like ticking time bombs, active jamming devices designed to blind an adversary's fire control radar, turning defensive systems into the blind in the dark. But what truly sends a chill down the spine is the Israeli-made Python 4 missile, a fearsome weapon with off-boresight capability of up to 90 degrees, allowing pilots to engage targets without pointing the aircraft's nose, needing only a glance through the helmet-mounted sight. Carrying such weapons proves one thing. These pilots didn't come for a casual flyby. They had anticipated the possibility of being fired upon and were prepared to respond with a decisive counterstrike, turning any encounter into a deadly game of cat and mouse. At 80 nautical miles from the target, the flight leader issues the command over the radio, his voice calm but resolute. Fence in. Activate. Inside the cramped cockpit, the click of the master arm switch sounds like a fateful clash of metal weapon systems are now live, waiting only for a trigger pull. The pilots' heartbeats race, sweat beads under their helmets as they activate the radar warning receiver, RWR, the display flashing with threat indicators. All identification lights are switched off, turning them into invisible ghosts on civilian radar. Moments later, they deploy the tactical broken arrow formation, a clever, calculated move. One element dives down to skim the sea at altitudes below 200 meters, exploiting the Earth's curvature to evade surface radars, slithering in like venomous snakes beneath the waves. The other element climbs to 20,000 feet, switches on active radar, and deliberately draws attention, serving as the perfect decoy, forcing U.S. air defense systems to split focus and concentrate on the obvious target, thereby opening a corridor for the low-flying group to penetrate deeper. This is a classic decoy tactic. The high group sacrifices surprise to create a dangerous opening for the low group, forcing the opponent to choose counter the threat above or block the one below. These pilots are no amateurs. They are professionally trained under international guidance, fully aware of the value of coordination and surprise. They came to test the limits, and they came fully armed to turn a test into a real risk, a direct challenge sent to the American giant. Do you dare pull the trigger first? but Venezuela's decoy trap was detected before it ever had a chance to snap shut. Facing them was the most advanced defensive system on the planet, an integrated network that is effectively impenetrable, where everything moves with machine-level speed and precision. Even as the F-16s skimmed the sea to exploit the Earth's curvature, they could not hide from the all-seeing eye above. An E-2D advanced Hawkeye quietly patrolling at 25,000 feet. Its AN/APY-9 radar erased every horizon blind spot, cutting through fog and electronic interference to pick up the distinct signatures of all 6 contacts from hundreds of nautical miles away. The data was instantly fed back to the carrier forward via Link 16, a form of modern electronic telepathy, where every ship, aircraft, and command center in the strike group becomes a single organism, sharing real-time information without a word spoken. At this moment, the flight deck of the Ford had not yet spotted the intruders with the naked eye, but inside the Combat Information Center, CIC, 6 red symbols were already firmly tracked on the tactical display. The system's computers rapidly analyzed the radar emissions and identified them at once. F-16 Block 15 aircraft, equipped with ALQ-131 electronic pods and compatible with Python 4 class missiles. These were not casual visitors. This was a credible threat. The air inside the CIC felt as cold as an ice vault. The Tactical Action Officer, TAO, assessed the picture in seconds, eyes locked on the screen. A decoy formation, electronic interference, high off-axis missile capability. He took a steady breath, then issued a brief order over the intercom, calm yet razor-sharp. Activate Alert-5. Launch interceptors. On the flight deck, the Alert-5 procedure was triggered, meaning the pilots had exactly 5 minutes to get airborne. 2 F/A-18E Super Hornets, fully loaded with long-range AIM-120 AMRAAMs and close-combat AIM-9X Sidewinders, rolled smoothly into position on the launch track. The EMAL's electromagnetic aircraft launch system came alive with its distinctive linear motor roar, producing no smoke and no violent shudder like the old steam catapults. The pilots tightened their grip on the controls, feeling the surge of G-forces intense yet unnervingly smooth as the aircraft went from 0 to 170 miles per hour in under 2 seconds. Their bodies were slammed into the seats, vision narrowing, as the jets were hurled skyward like arrows released from a magnetic bow. No explosion, no shockwave, just clean, precise acceleration, almost otherworldly. The U.S. Navy had played its response card. The Super Hornets would meet the intruders from a position of advantage, breaking Venezuela's fainting pincer before it could reach the carrier's inner danger zone. The escalation ignited at 6:21 a.m. The situation turned red hot. New radar returns flashed onto the screens, 3 more F-16s lifting off from Venezuelan airspace, bringing the total to 6 and forming a direct thrust aimed at the carrier strike group. This was no joke. It was a carefully coordinated provocation, designed to test the Americans' nerve and restraint. Somewhere in Caracas, someone had decided today was the day to poke the bear, and the bear was about to respond. The 2 Super Hornets climbed hard to 22,000 feet, turning to intercept. Their APG-79 radars locked onto the opposing formation from 63 nautical miles out. Each U.S. pilot could see the full tactical picture clearly on the display. 6 hostile tracks, closing at speeds approaching 900 miles per hour. Time to the merge was just 4 minutes, enough to prepare for a confrontation that could either end quietly or erupt into an international incident. Viper 1 and Viper 2 closed in from a position of advantage higher, and from the rear, High 6 executing standard SOP. Intercept first, then visually identify. Tally-ho! Viper 1 called as the picture became clear. Under the wings of the Venezuelan F-16s were ALQ-131 electronic attack pods and Python 4 missiles with 90-degree off-boresight capability ready to fire. It was a deliberate loadout, turning a warning into a real, credible threat, echoing patterns seen with Russia over the Baltic or China around Taiwan. Viper 1 keyed the radio. Visual on 6 F-16 seconds, heading 095, fully armed. The response from Ford was immediate and firm. Maintain defensive posture. No engagement. Hold fire. Observe and report. Steel discipline separates professionals from amateurs. This was aerial chess at 400 miles per hour. The Venezuelan formation grew aggressive, splitting up, reforming, making sharp offset turns to force the Super Hornets into radar cones, one jet diving into low-level sea-skimming flight while another climbed high, orbiting to gather elant. They were trying to provoke the U.S. into firing first, to turn the encounter into a propaganda win. Throughout it all, the Super Hornet team maintained flawless composure, tracking closely, escorting, and shepherding the intruders out of the safety perimeter without harassment or escalation. Every movement from hard turns to radar emissions was captured by sensors across multiple angles and frequencies. The Americans were not just defending, they were harvesting intelligence, training doctrine, pilot skill, tactical preferences. In this contest of minds, information was more valuable than ammunition, quietly turning the attacker into an unwitting source. The most dangerous moment erupted at 6:39 a.m. A Venezuelan F-16 suddenly made a sharp turn, diving straight toward the USS Gerald R like a living missile. This was no joke, it was a thumping, an aggressive warning pass, testing the fine line between provocation and war. On the flight deck, the Phalanx CIWS nicknamed R2D2 swung rapidly to track the contact. There was nothing cute about it. This was a fully automated close-in defense system, its radar locked on, computers calculating an intercept solution in a split second. The 20mm Gatling cannon spun up with a cold metallic whine, capable of releasing up to 4,500 tungsten rounds per minute, a dense wall of metal designed to neutralize any aircraft in an instant. In automatic mode, Phalanx does not wait for human commands. If a target crosses the red line, the system responds on its own. But the F-16 kept coming, leveling off at barely 200 feet eye level with the island superstructure. Close enough that the shriek of its jet engine thundered across the deck, the shockwave rattling the entire massive ship. Deck crew felt it slam into their chests. Coffee spilled across the wardroom, cups and plates shattered with sharp crashes. Every pair of eyes locked onto the sky. Breaths held one mistake, and hell would break loose. The Phalanx tracked everything, its radar flaring, yet never fired. Not because the computer hesitated, but because humans intervened. The American gunner, disciplined to the core under the ROE, rules of engagement, held down the hold fire button, preventing the automated weapon from turning aggression into hostility. Every sailor witnessing the thunder above understood. That line was as fragile as a thread, one twitch of a Venezuelan pilot's finger, one misread radar signal, one momentary lapse of composure from a USS gunner, and everything could escalate into an international catastrophe. American restraint was not weakness, it was true power, maintaining calm on the edge of the red line. A sudden withdrawal at 6:51 a.m. No warning, the 6 F-16 seconds split formation and raced southwest with no explanation, leaving behind trails of fuel and unanswered questions. Perhaps Caracas had seen enough, or they ran low on fuel, or they realized the risks were too great. The Americans didn't guess, they simply watched the radar blips fade, exhaled, and carried on. The USS Gerald R. Ford continued to display its power, staying its course and maintaining speed, the $13 billion ship gliding through the Caribbean, as if the 6 F-16 seconds were nothing more than buzzing flies around a giant's head. This restraint sent a clear message. But the real prize was the invisible hull, pure elant. Venezuela inadvertently revealed its hand, giving away radar parameters, ALQ-131 jamming frequencies, decoy tactics, all of it fed straight into U.S. intelligence databases. They spent $47,000 on 47 minutes of provocation, yet exposed secrets worth millions, giving the U.S. justification to increase its presence and gained nothing. Venezuelan media loudly pushed revised propaganda. Brave pilots chased off the U.S. ship. The Ford's logs coldly refuted this. Nothing changed. This was the gray zone, one side making probing moves, the other responding with silent strategic calculation. Venezuela challenged the USS in its backyard. All they proved was that trying to confront the Ford with 6 F-16 seconds was like playing chess while revealing 3 key moves in advance. At Air Supremacy, we distill geopolitical realities. The lesson in restraint. No gunfire, just disciplined composure teaching the lesson. Silent contempt hurts more than missiles. They came looking for a reaction. They got a shrug. If this analysis sparks your strategic thinking, subscribe to Air Supremacy to understand modern warfare. Share because true dominance lies in silent control of the skies, where the heavens tell the story.